Hello, I am Sophie welcome back to my channel, and welcome to a Project What writing vlog. Has it been a while? Maybe. I feel like I haven't done like a dedicated Project What vlog in like a month, and I've been working on Project What that entire time, so it feels kind of wrong. I just made myself a gorgeous rice bowl thing that I will be eating after this intro. I also got some tea, because why not? And in this video, we will be writing through the midpoint of Project What. So that means all of the scenes that go into the midpoint, or that I'm considering the midpoint, I want all of them done by the end of this vlog. You might be thinking, didn't you say you wanted Project What done by the end of the retreat? And given the time in which you're filming this and posting this, isn't the retreat almost over? And you're not even at the midpoint? Yes, you are correct. Many things have been happening over this summer. I won't get into any of them. They're not anything crazy, don't expect that. But a lot of my time was dedicated towards something that inevitably did not end up happening, which really pushed Project What to the sidelines. And also, I've just been stuck in chapter 20 of Project What for like 2 weeks now. Finally getting over that hump, and chapter 20 is finally coming together. But for those 2 weeks, I was like barely writing. I was maybe writing 100, 200 words a day in chapter 20, just like trying to get it done. I went to California during that time, where I did try to write chapter 20. I maybe got 800 words into it. I hand wrote it since I was going a lot of places, especially places that I couldn't bring my laptop. So I bought a notebook in order to handwrite. I typed all that up, and then I realized I hated all of it. So I am back to handwriting. Love that. This notebook has my name on it. I don't even know how long I've had this notebook, but I've had it for some time. Didn't really have anything to put in it. The cover's all messed up because there was a tag on it. Don't worry about that. And then maybe a week and a half ago, I found this in my room, and I was like, I can use this for Project What. So I've been using it for Project What. Everything I have in here right now is still chapter 20. I am still in chapter 20, yes, I know. But that is because I am completely scrapping what I have already written for chapter 20, and I am completely rewriting it in this notebook, which is what this is. This is the printed version of chapter 20. This version of this chapter sucks. So I am slowly reading through this, rewriting it in the notebook, and then hopefully in doing this, I'm already feeling better about the chapter because I wrote 700 words today. Put that in a YouTube short, go check it out. I'm getting over it now, and I think I'm finally getting back into like actually writing and liking what I write, which is nice. But that's where I'm at right now. I'm about to finish the second of 3 scenes in chapter 20, and then once that's done, I will be actually switching back to my laptop, because chapter 21 is just a rewrite of scenes that I already love, so that'll be fun. But we do need to finish chapter 20 first. I'm gonna try to do that before going to sleep tonight. Hopefully this food and this tea will help, but I'm gonna get eating. I'll see you guys when I'm all done. Hopefully we can finish this chapter. long time no see. It is the 25th. I think the last time I filmed was on like the 20th or something. There's also a giant pimple starting to form on my chin. Please don't look at it. But we're back. I started school today. I started my semester today. Very fun. It is 8:30 and I still have a little bit of coffee left. I'm just gonna polish this off and I won't have anything else for the rest of the day. I've found that if I don't chug the coffee, it basically does nothing to me. So if I just sip it, we're fine. Because it's only the first day of class, nothing super crazy has happened yet, which means I can still write. And hopefully I can still write through the end of this month. Because I have a few things I want to talk about before we get too much further into this vlog. First of all, I'm still in chapter 20. Don't hit me up on that. I haven't been writing a ton, but I'm finally closing in on the end of the final scene in chapter 20. That's what we're gonna work on today. I'm not gonna say I'm gonna finish it today because I don't know how much longer it's gonna be, but in that original clip, in that first clip in the vlog, I didn't realize how much I had to put into the final scene in chapter 20. And when I was done with the second scene, the second of 3 scenes, and I was looking at my outline to figure out what else was left for this chapter, I was like, oh my god, there's way more to this than I thought. So I've been spending the last few days working on that, just chipping away at it. I've been writing maybe a couple hundred words every day. I have already written a little bit today because I have so much time between 2 of my classes on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So it's Monday today. So I had a huge gap in between 2 of my classes and I used that time to write. So I have already written a little bit today. I do want to keep going. Also, because this vlog, I kind of like stopped filming it and now we're like a week out from the end of the retreat, I'm just gonna let this vlog go to the end of the retreat. That'll be our cutoff, and I really want to reach the midpoint by the end of the retreat. I think I've already talked about that in the vlog. I think that's what I said my goal for this video was. So now we're tacking on the I want to finish it by August 31st. That is 6 days away, including today, but I actually don't know how much I have left before the midpoint. I'll have to find that out, but I don't want to look until I finish chapter 20. Because if I don't finish chapter 20 first, I'm gonna like start freaking out. So we're gonna get started. Oh, actually one more update. I want to write through the midpoint because I fear that I need to reread what I have written so far for Project What up to this point to make sure I am on track. This book is so big. One of my side goals is to hopefully cut it down because it's already almost at 100,000 words and it'll probably be at 100,000 by the time I get to the midpoint, which means this is a 200,000 word book. And that is insane. That is literally crazy. I don't want that. At the most, I want like 175,000. So one of my goals is to hopefully cut down on the word count. I want to get it at least a little bit closer to halfway. Knowing me in midpoints though, after the midpoint, I do tend to underwrite or like write less than the first half of the book. So maybe it'll stay around 175K, I'm not sure, but I do want to try and cut some stuff out if possible. And also, I want to make sure I'm not losing the essence of the characters, especially my main character. Her whole thing is trying to figure out the history of this group. She's trying to figure out where they went and why they're back. That's her thing. And in order to do that, I need to understand where they were, what their history was, what this group's history was. And I feel like I'm going a little bit back and forth on like not only what my character knows, but how the island feels towards this group. There's a lot of stuff I'm establishing in the scene I am writing right now, which, where's that notebook? In my backpack, of course. There's a lot of stuff I'm establishing in the scene I'm currently writing that I really like. Here it is. I like how it sounds. I think it's a really cool escalation into chaos, but I don't think I set this up properly because I didn't know I was going to do this. You know what I mean? So using the information I have written now, I would like to go back and sort of reinforce it, or maybe I reread all the stuff I wrote earlier and I realize that actually that's way better than whatever I came up with in here, and I need to switch it. Also just streamlining what I know about the group, what I know about their history, so I don't have to keep making stuff up on the fly. Yes. The other 2 main characters, I feel like they're pretty solid. They haven't done a crazy amount in Act 2 yet, but I am very excited for their arcs after the first pinch, which the first pinch will be in chapter 21. Very exciting. I get to pretty much just line edit those scenes. I need to set it up differently, but once we get into the scenes, it's pretty much already set because I really like those scenes already. The two side main characters, what they go through after that first pitch after chapter 21 is very fun, at least what I outlined, and I will need to assess that as well and make sure that's working, make sure that's strong. And I want to do that before I try to write the rest of the book, because I want to go into the second half of the book knowing that the first half is the best it could possibly be. So that's what's gonna happen in this vlog now. I want to finish writing through the midpoint. I want to write the midpoint, which is probably gonna be a couple chapters. And then I'm going to probably print it out. I'm probably gonna like get it through like Office Max or Staples or something. And then we're gonna do a reread. This is definitely not a full scale revision. I'm probably just gonna take a red pen to it or something and just jot down notes as they come to me. But that is the plan. That is the plan because I'm very scared that the book so far is kind of coming off the rails. Like, it's not bad yet, but like if I keep going, it's gonna get bad. So we're gonna stop while we're ahead, but I do want to get to the midpoint. So all that being said, let's get writing. I am handwriting, and I'm honestly really excited to get back into the scene because, once again, the lore that I set up, which probably not a good thing that I'm still setting up lore, but the lore that I set up in this is really fun. After this too, I want to write this first, but afterwards, I've got something to say. Oh my god, I'm so mad at myself, but it could be fun. Okay, write, and then we'll discuss. Yes. Maybe an hour? Maybe like an hour and a half? Whoa, that's too bright. Okay, that's better. It's been like an hour and a half. I finished chapter 20. Let's go. Finished it. I just did the calculation, I forgot. I've written 11 pages today. 11 full pages. I ended this chapter on the very last line of this page. Good stuff. 11 pages in here. There's about 115 words per page. So that gives us 1,265 words. Not bad. That's the most I've written in like 2 weeks. I'm not gonna lie. Let's see. Oh, it's the most I've written in like a week and a half because I wrote that entire short story in a day. So that was like 4,000 words. But in Project What? That's the most I've written since August 10th. I'm gonna log this. What is that, 1265? Is that what I said? Gorgeous, 1265. I've been low-key slacking, clearly, with Project What lately. So hopefully with the rest of this vlog and the rest of this month and the rest of this retreat, I can actually lock the freak in because I'm kind of sad about how much progress I'm making, or lack thereof. I also want to see how big this entire chapter is because I've handwritten all of chapter 20. So I'm gonna count this real quick. 40 pages, okay. Whoa, this chapter got long. Last time I checked the word count for this chapter, it was at 2,600 words, and now it's at 4,600 even. Hello? How did I do that? How did I do that? I didn't write 2,000 words today. Maybe I miscounted the pages. If it is at 4,600, it's on par with the rest of the book, which is nice. Now that that is done, we can discuss what I wanted to discuss before I started writing. Because of the scene I was just in, where we see a lot of history, a lot of island history. The island is a little over 100 years old, like 110, 120 years old. So it does have history of its own. And that's what we are really exploring in the scene, is that history. And as I was writing that history, I was like, oh my god, this would be really interesting. This would be really interesting to see a story written in this part of the timeline. And I was like, bro, you do not need to be doing all that. So long story short, ever since I started writing this scene today. Well, I didn't start writing the scene today, but once I got into the part where we were really discussing the history, I've been thinking about a prequel. A Project What prequel. This prequel would take place 50 years in the past from the story that I'm writing at the moment. So very few of the characters in this story would be in that prequel. There are a couple that are old people in Project What now that do have a stake in what would be happening at this point in the story, but I cannot stop thinking about it. I really want to, I want to outline it, I want to brainstorm it, I want to do something. I came up with a thing where the enemy group of this project, in an attempt to take over the island 50 years ago, they go on this conquest. They go on this island-wide conquest, almost like conquering a city in like ancient Rome or something. I don't know, but that's what they're doing to the island in this world. It's like they took a page out of like Genghis Khan's textbook or something, and they're like following that verbatim. So it's like a very old school conquering technique, but with modern weaponry, with modern tools. And I was like, that would be so cool. That would be so cool to see. But I really shouldn't be thinking of prequels right now, especially when I don't know what's happening in the third book. I mean, like, I have a vague idea of what's happening in the third book, but not really. Not really at all. So I really shouldn't be thinking about prequels when the trilogy isn't even like slightly set in stone, but I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about it. But anyways, chapter 20 is finally done. I've been writing this for what feels like ever, and I can move on to chapter 21. That will probably have to be tomorrow because I do have to prep some stuff for tomorrow morning. So I'm gonna do that now and then probably go to sleep. I might read for a little bit, low-key. Been really into the book I'm reading right now. So I might read for a little depending on how long all this prep stuff takes, but tomorrow I will be back on the laptop to edit the scenes for chapter 21, and we will be through the first pitch of the novel of Act 2. I feel like I'm losing it. I don't know. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Hello. It's been a few days. Oh, there's my cat. Awesome. Forgot I kind of needed these. Hello. It is August 29th. Whoops. I have 2 days. Well, 3, counting today, until the retreat is over, and I want to hit the midpoint by the end of the retreat. Because of school, I haven't really been able to work on Project What, which makes me sad. Yesterday, I wrote about 500 words in the intro of chapter 21, which those scenes are just things I need to rework the intro of, and then once I get into the scenes, or the parts of the scenes that I can keep, it's pretty much just a line edit. I really want to finish chapter 21 today. It's going to be a fairly short chapter because it only constitutes one event. It would feel wrong to put something else in this chapter, just like from the tone and the mood of it. So it should be a pretty short chapter. Depending on how long that takes me to write and do, I might start the next chapter as well. This is my outline. I am currently writing the stuff in the orange or the pink, whatever you want to call that color, and that will be its own chapter. And then afterwards are some pretty small scenes just to like inch the plot forward, add some more intrigue, add some more mystery, add to relationship arcs a little bit. But this is gonna be fun. Okay, there's a lot left until the midpoint, so hopefully I actually can. There's the midpoint right there, all that colored in text. So once I do finish the scene I am in right now, or the chapter I'm in right now, because it's like, I think it's like 3 scenes, I definitely need to start drafting the new stuff, because we gotta pick up the pace. We gotta pick up the pace. I'm about to leave for my favorite coffee shop to write in, to do anything in basically, because I need to lock in, and like the only place I can lock in is there. So we're gonna go there. I need to pack everything up. Depending on what happens, I might start with a sprint challenge, because I did that yesterday. I did that yesterday when I got the 500 words, because I was struggling to set up the scene, and I only ended up doing like 2 sprints. I did the 5 and the 8. And that was it. So I might do this today as well, just to finish the setup. And then we'll probably move to like 45 on, 15 off for line editing. And then I do need to do some schoolwork as well, because like I said, I am in school. So I need to do a little bit of that as well. I think what I'll do is I will finish chapter 21. I'll move on to school stuff, the stuff that I need to do, and then we can get back to writing once I finish all my school stuff. That's the plan. Yes. Let's just get going. Let's just go. Hello. It is the last day of the retreat. It is the last day of August. It is, believe it or not, 7:45 in the morning-ish. 7:46. This morning, I actually ended up waking up at 5 in the morning because I really wanted to black out my bingo card for the retreat. And the last thing I had to do, besides actually reach my retreat goal, which is to write up to the midpoint, all I had to do was write before sunrise. That was the last thing besides hit my retreat goal that I have left on my bingo card. So I have one more thing I want to hit by the end of today. But I actually ended up waking up at 5 in the morning. It was still dark outside. Really weird, because I typically don't do that unless I'm going to the airport or something. And I wrote maybe 500 words, 600 words. I'm in a pretty tense set of scenes right now, and I really want to make sure they hit properly with all the context that I have now. So I've been going kind of slow with them, but I did get through about 500 words before 6 o'clock. So I took a little bit of time to get out of bed and grab coffee and stuff. So probably in the first 45 minutes, I got about 500 words, which is great for being half asleep, I'm not gonna lie. And then after that, I showered. Clearly, my hair is still very wet. And now I'm out in my car. I actually am in a Dutch Bros parking lot right now. I got my cold brew, and I got breakfast. And I brought my laptop here because I want to finish this chapter. It's chapter 21. I know I talked earlier about wanting to get chapter 21 done fairly quickly. That did not end up happening because I've realized that there's a lot of things that I need to add to build character in these scenes and to build context and to really settle it in this world. And like I said, I don't want to mess this up. I want to make sure it hits. I want to make sure we're feeling the things that my main character is feeling. So I'm going a little slower with it. But I do want to finish this chapter before I start streaming today, which starts at 10:30, as it usually does. So I have 2.5 hours, basically, to do this. Should be plenty of time. There's really not that much left in this chapter. This might be a pretty long chapter because it's already at 4,400 words, but given what's already in the doc that I'm editing right now, there's not a ton of content left in chapter 21 to edit and work on. So I'm gonna sit here until I finish that. Then we will head home. I'm gonna keep writing because I do want to write to the midpoint today. If I can write through the midpoint, that'll be great, but it is a pretty big plot point, not only significance wise, but literally word count wise. So we'll see if that happens. But I do want to write at least up to finishing the last scene before the midpoint begins. So enough yapping. I'm gonna get some of this in my system, eat my little wrap, and get to editing. Hello, party people. It is 6:30 p.m. on August 31st. I have been awake for 13 and a half hours. That's kind of crazy. If you can't tell, this is not normal for me. If I wake up at 8 in the morning, it's a good day. It's a great day, honestly, when I wake up at 8 in the morning. So the fact that I actually did wake up at 5 and right before the sunrise today was mind-boggling, frankly. The sun is beginning to set. It's getting a little dark in here. I'm gonna have to turn on some lights. But also, I've been having a great writing day. After I finished chapter 21, I took a break from writing before I started the stream. Once I started the stream, I started handwriting. So all of chapter 21 was done on my computer. That's done. I got about 1,300 words in that. And then ever since the stream started, I have been handwriting, and I actually want to figure out how much I've written, because I think I'm gonna switch back to writing on my laptop here. I'm gonna try starting the scene on my laptop and see how I like it. And if the words are not flowing, then we'll switch back to this. But I feel like typing will be the move right now. Let's see roughly how much I've written in here. 19 pages in here. Where's my phone so I can figure that out? I've written a little over 2,000 words in here. So I've written about 3K today. Not bad. But I do still have a bit to go here. Basically, I am on this page. I'm on the second page. I have finished the back of this page, and I have this to do, and then that last point at the very top, and then this is the midpoint. All that orange is the midpoint. My saving grace right now, if that's the term, is the fact that half of the stuff in the outline at this point is stuff I just need to reread from draft 3 and line edit. So that shouldn't take crazy long, but the other half is new stuff because it is the revised arc for my two side main characters. Like, we see their perspective just as much-ish, a little bit less than the main character for this book, but a lot of their arc together has changed quite a bit. So all of that is new drafting. Basically all of my main character stuff, I just get to copy and paste. And I love that, and I love that so much. Before I start drafting on my computer, I do want to organize the scenes, because there is a couple scenes that I skipped over in the handwriting because I do just have to copy and paste them. So I put little place markers in here. Yeah, so I put like a little place marker down here to where I need to put those scenes. And I'm gonna type all this up later. So I'm just gonna put like the scene titles that I need for everything in here into the doc. And then copy and paste the scenes that I actually need to edit. And then we can get started. Alright, and that is the end of the retreat. Despite wearing the same exact thing, it is the next day. It is September 1st. First and foremost, let's go over everything that I did in these last 3 months. Thankfully, we have a handy-dandy spreadsheet in which a lot of people have contributed their daily word counts. But for me, what I did in June, I wrote a total of 53,808 words. July, I don't know what happened in July. It was crazy, but I wrote 76,065 words. Don't know how I did that. insane. And then August, which we just wrapped up, I did 28,814 words. Not a ton. Let's break that down a little bit. So this was not just drafting in one project. This was not just project what. This was a mix of many things that I was doing. I have videos for most things out. I made a whole summer writing retreat playlist, which this will be the last video in that. So if you want to see pretty much everything I worked on during these last 3 months, it's all on that playlist. But of course, my main goal was to work on project what? Violet, if you will. I feel weird still calling it Violet, because it's project what to me, but Violet is its name. It's been its name since the beginning, so I shouldn't be weird about it, but project what? My goal for project what was to finish draft 4. So I could work on its sequel, Project Moss, or I can at least start working on Project Moss by today. That was the ultimate plan. Where I ended up getting was, actually, this counts as like an update for yesterday too, I ended up getting maybe a chapter or 2 away from the midpoint. So here we are. Yeah, spoiler alert, I did not hit the midpoint last night like I was hoping, so I don't get to black out my bingo. I was one spot away, one square away from blackout on the bingo, and I couldn't do it, Here's the midpoint, orange again, and I ended up like here. Like right here. So I was like a chapter or 2 away from being done. So that's where I ended up, at the midpoint of the book I wanted done by the end of these 3 months. It's fine. That being said, this book, even where I'm not at the midpoint yet, is sitting at almost 100,000 words. So I'm gonna have to do something about that. We'll talk about future plans later, but yes, we are sitting at like 90,000, 100,000 words in Project What right now, and I'm not even at the midpoint. I also was working a little bit on Project Glass. I was revising for a good amount of time. I think I read through the first 8 chapters of this book, and there's 40 chapters in this book. So I read through the first 8, a fifth of it, and that did contribute to my word count. My thing that I do when I'm like tracking like this is when I finish reading a chapter for a book I'm revising, I just call it 1,000 words. I call it 1,000 words in the spreadsheet or wherever I'm tracking, which a lot of this was revision during this retreat. So there's a lot of like even 1,000 entries I've put into this spreadsheet, and that is because I was revising. I was revising this, or I was revising this. I really need to get back into this. I love this book. I can't stop thinking about this book, and I really want to get it ready for beta readers here soon. So we will definitely be talking about this in the whole future plans at the end of this. And then I was also, this was a curveball for me. I was not going into this planning on doing this, but I was also working on 4 new baby project ideas. This you probably don't recognize, which is why I'm holding it up. But this is where I am outlining or brainstorming the outline for all 4 of these projects. I've done 3 so far. Well, I've done like 2.5 pretty much. I wasn't able to do all 4. I did want to come out of this retreat with all 4 done, but that did not end up happening. But I do have 2 full outlines, and I'm working on the 3rd one, which is nice. If you want to know about those 4 projects, they all have their own separate videos. They're in the playlist, trust. But I was also working on that, and some of the word count in this spreadsheet is also like the outlining and stuff that I did for these. So these were really the 3 main things I was working on. Glass, the 4 new projects, and Project What, which is kind of crazy now that I think about it. Like in my head, I was just working on Project What, but then like I looked back at all these numbers and stuff, and I was like, that physically cannot just be Project What. And I was like, yeah, because it wasn't just Project What. You're working on like technically 5 other projects because of the 4 baby ones, but they really don't count as a full project yet. So a lot happened this month, but like I said, technically I didn't hit any of those goals that I talked about in the original intro video to this event. I can't remember exactly what they were, besides knowing I wanted to finish draft 4. I think I also wanted to have Project Glass ready to be drafted. Like I wanted to finish reading Project Glass in order to start working on it, and that was kind of it. My goals were to finish draft 4 and start working on Project Moss so I could be working on Project Moss for the rest of the year. And then I wanted to have Project Glass ready to draft so I could have something, you know, to actually draft and write while I was like doing the reworking for Project Moss. Neither of those ended up happening. Tisk tisk, what's new with me, right? But I do think there were a couple limiting factors, a couple bottlenecks in this summer that sort of prevented me from being able to achieve these goals. I'm not trying to make excuses. I'm just trying to paint the full picture. Okay, first of all, work was chaotic. I'm sure you remember, if you've seen any of my other vlogs, my writing vlogs, that I was studying for an exam for work during this time. That ultimately ended up falling apart. I never took that exam. Did not happen. But I did end up spending a good chunk of this summer studying for that exam. That took up a big amount of time, not to mention working itself. Naturally, it takes up a lot of time, which having to study for work on top of that definitely ate away at a lot of the time I would have had for writing. And then additionally, I added 4 new projects to this summer that I was not expecting to when I went into this. I just could not stop thinking about Project Moonrat, and I was like, I really want to make it something that I technically could write if I had the time, which I don't, but you know, the idea was fun. And then I was like, ooh, what about Project Jade? Because Project Jade has always been like one of my favorite projects to just like think about every now and then. I've never written it. Well, I've tried to write it, but it didn't work. And I was just like, oh, I could work on that one too. And then I started looking through my like project ideas folder in Google Drive, and I was like, oh my God, I have 2 other projects besides these 2 that I really want to work on. So we ended up with 4. So also technically a bottleneck because it's not the main goals that I set up, but a lot of fun. But now, now that we are here, now that it is the end of the retreat, end of the month, end of everything, I'm so sad. What are we gonna do going forward? So, big thing that I took away from this was that Project What is sitting at 100,000 words before we get to the midpoint. That is insane. I know this is gonna be a big book. I'm aware of that, and I'm fine with that. I think it needs that because it is a very wide scoping story. But 200,000 plus words is a little too much. I'm hoping to keep it around 175,000, maybe 150, but 175,000 is probably where we're gonna be. And at this rate, if the midpoint is going to be the middle of the book, that's not gonna happen whatsoever. I need to cut it down to, what's 175 divided by 2? To 87,500 words. So my new idea is to write up to the midpoint, get up to that point, and then I'm going to print it out. I'm going to print out the 100,000+ words that I have. I'm gonna read that through, see what I need to cut. But I'm not just printing it out to see what I need to cut. I'm printing it out to make sure I am still on track. We're getting into the drafts where things like this really matter. I can't just go off on random trails and be like, ooh, this would be cool to write about. Like, no, there's a set story at this point that I need to follow. So I'm also going to be reading this to make sure I'm still in the right voices, I'm still on the right track for each character, we're still pushing the story towards what I want from like the outline, so I can fix it now if it is messed up before, you know, we get to the midpoint and everything starts falling apart for the characters. I really want to make sure I set up the emotional states of the characters and I can really build a foundation for why certain things make them upset or freak them out before the midpoint, because it is after the midpoint that a lot of that tragedy and that chaos begins. As I was revising, I found that a big thing that needed to be fixed was that a lot of their big emotions were not earned in the book. They seem to just come out of nowhere, and it's weird. So I want to make sure I'm setting up their backgrounds, their personalities, to where these emotions are being paid off. So once I have written up to the midpoint, which should only take a little bit longer, because I did do a lot of work yesterday, I will be printing that out. I'll probably print it out through like Office Max or something. And while I'm waiting for that, I will be working on this bad boy, Project Glass. I want to finish the reread. It's a fairly short book. It's 191 pages, so pretty small. It should not take very long to actually read, even though there will be a lot of emotional damage. I'm scared for that. I wrote it, but I'm scared. Get my revision notes down and figure out what I need to fix in this draft. This one shouldn't need a ton of changes. I know I said that for Project What, and I was incredibly wrong, but this one I wrote a year ago, I think. Not even. This one I wrote like 6 months ago. Project What I wrote like 3 years ago from when I started revising it. This is a lot fresher in my mind than Project What was, and I do think a lot of this is going to stay exactly as I have written it here. The only thing is there are certain plot points and stuff that I want to really emphasize to build more character, but the reread itself, the revision itself, should not take very long. I want to do that while I am waiting for the printed version of Project What to come in, so by the time that version's here, I can be drafting Project Glass while I am rereading Project What. Sort of like ping-ponging who's being drafted at the time. I really don't know how much of this I'm going to have to change, so I don't know how long I'll be drafting this, but I'm hoping I can finish this around the same time I finish rereading the first half of Project What. So once again, it can ping-pong back to Project What, and I can start drafting that again, which is scary. And then in between, I do want to finish the outlines for these 4 projects. They're not super complete outlines. They are just in a Google Doc, and then I think once I do start writing them, I will make cards for each that really flesh out the plot, because even looking at the outlines I have now, like, they technically could work for a draft, but I know I would get lost and I would lose motivation just because it's not detailed enough for me. So it's just like a nice thing to follow, and I'll just flesh it out on index cards. But yeah, that is that is my plan for post summer writing retreat, the rest of the year, etc. If you want to know the total stats for everyone who added their names to the community spreadsheet, which there is 20 people in here, 20 people including me. So this is what 20 people wrote in 3 months. We have 236,000 about in June alone, and then 276,000 in July, go us, and then in August 166,000, rounding up there. So for the entire retreat, everyone, at least in this doc, I'm sure there were more than 20-ish people participating in this spreadsheet, all 20 of us wrote 678,000 words. More specifically, 678,711 words. So that was really cool to see. That was like one of my favorite things to watch every day as like I put in my own words, was to see like how much the total had jumped up from the last time. So seeing it all done now and seeing what we were all able to accomplish, so crazy. So cool to see like how quickly word counts can just compound and build off of one another. When you're working by yourself, it doesn't feel like that much, but it's like we wrote almost 700,000 words in 3 months. Like, that's insane. That's kind of scary. But anyways, that is it from me. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for being here. Thanks for hanging out. This vlog is very long, I'm aware. I've been talking right now for 25 minutes, so oops. But if you participated in the writing retreat at all, even if you weren't in the Discord and you were just here on YouTube, maybe just doing your own thing, let me know how it went for you. Hopefully you hit your goals, or maybe you learned something new about yourself or like your writing routine. I don't know. But if you did participate, please let me know how it went in the comments. Let me know if you'll be participating in the winter retreat, which will be December and January, like it was last year, or technically this year, I guess, because that will be the next one. I'm very excited. I'm already like ready for the next retreat. I really do think I'm going to keep doing the summer and the winter retreats. I think it's a lot of fun, and it gives us a nice replacement for what the nanos used to be. But let me know anything and everything in the comments. I hope to see you in the next one. Peace.